I'm sorry.
We're on.
Yes, we
We're
are.
on live.
Yeah, getting money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Customer, clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin, nothing less. I was broke, that was last year. Don't change 'em. I never switched up. Been down since day one. Steady soldier. People change them.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to DBT Live. Another episode. I'm Stefania.
Hey, everybody. I'm Hashim, also known as Hashade.
I go last, Omar.
Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Omar's here, so Mr. Carter can go last.
Thank you, Michael Carter, a.k.a. Paperboy, a.k.a. Short Texas. Thank you, sir.
Hey, I have no problems with that.
We gotta process, sir. Please.
Oh, I didn't know either. So, okay, now we know. Save the best for last. Is that what we do?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hashade, I know he's going to push back on that.
No, I'm letting things go.
This is New Year, New You. New Year, New You.
I'm just fighting the urge, the whole little screen cleaner and telling folks, make sure you wipe your camera lens to get that shea butter filter off. I'm trying to fight that type of petty.
Wow. So how's everybody doing? Yeah?
I am good.
Busy, but a good week.
Have we not talked since New Year's? Is this our first show this year?
No, last week.
We was on last week.
My bad.
Somebody was sleep talking.
Okay, my bad. Go ahead. Y'all go ahead. I was just sitting.
Remember we were talking about January 6th, the insurrection and the impact on the Black community. We had a whole discussion about that.
Yeah, if y'all didn't see it, go back and watch. It was a good show.
My brother was traumatized by the mess that was taken on in the Capitol, but that was last week. On this time last week, Mr. Carter.
All right, now I remember because I got cut off.
Oh, that's right, you did.
That's right, because you was about to respond to something that Hashim said.
I told him to hang around more Black people. Don't be amazed that Black people can get around and have a professional conversation with each other. I mean, what is that? That ain't nothing new to us that hang around Black folks.
Okay, man. I was about to compliment the professionalism of our group and the impressiveness of our group, but
I said what I said.
I got that shade thrown back at me, and then I got cut off. So
I just said hang around more Black people. Black excellence ain't nothing new to us.
All of us.
All of us.
I mean,
well, all three of us.
Yeah, come on, the defense attorney, come on.
I can't even give him a compliment.
I was in the meeting today, and one of the things I hate about being in some of my meetings is when they talk about Black people from a deficit model, talking about CP time, talking about since it's Black, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and I must be spoiled because more than 99% of the time I'm around Black people, professional Black people. Things are done according to how it said it's going to be done. And, but when I'm in meetings and I hear people use that language, I'm trying not to interrupt the flow of the meeting, but I do change the narrative. I say, hey, I must be spoiled because when I'm around Black people, 3/4 of the time, things are great. So I just think we just need to change that language. And especially when we're in mixed company, to not use that language. I get up early in the morning, and 3/4 of the people I know get up early in the morning. So I don't know If CP time is being on time, getting up early, taking care of business, that's the CP time I belong to.
Well, listen. So, in hearing CP time growing up, and then studying our history and culture and relationship in this country, Omar, that is exactly what CPT time is, right? Because colored people's time was we were up before the sunset, right? And historically, we had to be there ahead of that steward of white supremacy. Trying to make sure I keep, that we can post these on all platforms.
New Year. Okay.
Yeah, so to be late provided consequences historically for Black people in this country. So CP time means I've been waiting for you to show up.
Yeah.
Well, let's say I've been waiting on you at the door.
Yep. Yeah. Technically, when you think about it, yes, you're absolutely right. That's true.
Yeah, just like Uncle Tom has a negative history to it, but it actually was a good thing to be an Uncle Tom, but the stewards of white supremacy hated what Uncle Tom stood for and began the narrative to change that, right? Or began the process to change that narrative. So, yeah. But we ain't beating up on Mr. Carter. I see his eyes sink into a sad place. We ain't beating up on you. We just talking about things in this country.
I believe Sister Gallegos will defend me.
There we go. Sending a Black woman to do your work. Sending a Black woman to do your work. Do your own work, my brother.
There we go. Sure, what I will say is that we all know that. We all know what we are and what we bring to the table. And it's something that we're again in 2021 we're fighting to have taught to the others. So I agree with you, Omar. We need to change that narrative, and it needs to be done immediately. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about it's so early in our year, 2022. We are, and I said 2021 a minute ago. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get used to the time change. But we've lost some major players that from our professional Black history. Yeah. Y'all know about we lost Sharon Bailey, who is a prolific educator in Colorado, in Denver. So we wanted to talk about some of the lives that we will be missing that were key players in our community.
Yeah. And just, for the sake of American purposes of being correct, it was Dr. Sharon Bailey.
Right.
No. I mean, that was not an intentional slip on your part,
no.
But just always want to acknowledge those type of things. Absolutely. Because that's been our struggle here. And also in her memory and to her sorority sisters, I want to wish them a happy Founders Day on today, because she was a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And today's their Founders Day. And I just want to tell, I'm an alpha. I want to tell the kids happy birthday today.
From the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, we definitely wish you a happy birthday. But I remember when I first moved to Colorado in 2002, and maybe it was around 03, 04, I received a phone call from John Bailey saying, you need to come and be at my, it wasn't like it was asked, for those who know John. It was like, you will be at, regardless of my calendar, he said, you will be at my place for this panel. Yep. And I went to his event, and Dr. Sharon Bailey was sitting right next to me. And I remember her just going over all these statistics in regards to DPS. I remember her talking about, some of the things that need to change that later turned into a blueprint that she had wrote of how to address the diversity and inequity issues in DPS. But that blueprint can be used in any single school district. So it was just an honor. I probably was on like about 5 or 6 panels with her. She's amazing. And that's a huge loss to our education community.
Yeah. She brought a lot to the community. She herself she's an Ivy Leaguer. She went to Princeton for her undergraduate, and then here in Colorado for her master's. But she's an Ivy Leaguer. I mean, she absolutely is going to leave a gap, and those shoes are going to be really hard to fill.
I'm going to say, if you're an educator or if you serve on school boards, hint, hint.
Look at me. No. What I will say, because I'm a neophyte to it and to her, and I never got to meet her in person. However, what I can speak to is the impact she had on people that I admire and look up to. And I can tell you that when the news came, we were in a gathering, and the way it was presented to me was that almost a family member had been lost. And the way that those people that like I said, the people I looked up to and the people who I was trying to emulate were like, we've lost a family member. And I didn't quite understand the stature of who she was and what she was about. But I could absolutely identify with all those school board members going, okay, we literally, we've lost something really bad has happened. We've lost a family member, and kind of taking that on and understanding the impact. Once that happened, I then started looking into who she was and what she was about. So I have to apologize for never meeting her, but I'm very aware of her legacy and her impact on, like I said, the people that I look up to and the people that I'm trying to emulate.
And where I was when I heard the news was a little surreal in regards to just where I was at the time I heard the news. I was at Overland High School, where Shana Shaw organization, Compound for Compassion, was doing a education seminar with kids, because we had just had some of those shootings. And it was about maybe 50 kids in there, and they were facilitating a workshop. Then I started seeing text messages come across my screen. Then I reached out to Brother John Bailey, and he had confirmed everything. And I said, it's ironic that I am sitting here with kids who were probably benefiting from the legacy that she had left. Educators that are there sacrificing their Saturdays to work with kids. This was her work and the model that she left us to carry on. So on one end, I was extremely sad, but on the other end, I knew her spirit was in there with us, with those kids.
Yeah. She's going to be sorely missed, and I know that they had her for her services over the last weekend, I believe it was. Did you attend, Omar?
Yeah, I was able to attend the memorial service, but not the funeral.
Okay.
And the memorial service went for almost 3.5 hours.
Wow.
Because it was that, not because people were taking a long time to talk. It was just so many people who wanted to just share a story, share a memory, share how she mentored them. They wouldn't be in education without her. There were people that flew in from all over the country to celebrate her life. So I'm glad that I was able to be one of the speakers, and at the same time be able to just listen to the impact she had on our community.
That's awesome. I mean, sorely missed. I'm with Michael. I think we crossed paths just briefly, but I never got a chance to actually sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with her. And that's one thing that I regret. I wish we did have FaceTime together. I think I met her in passing through an activity that we did at my church, but I didn't actually get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with her. Hashim, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so I went to school with her sons.
Okay.
Yeah, Ramu and I were actually in the same grade. Musa was ahead of us, and Kamal was behind us. And so that was my first introduction with her was like later on, because Dr. Bailey was a silent warrior, right? Like she was not one that sought the limelight. She did what she had to do. She was observant, and that was her power. That was her strength. But I met her as I began to get more involved in politics. I guess it was more of a first name, first facial recognition type of engagement as I began to get more involved in politics. And I can just remember sometimes when I would come into the room, she would just drop her head and chuckle like, it's getting ready to be like that. I'm like, if it has to be like that, it's getting ready to be like that, right? Like, so that was it. And the news was just, a lot of things, like she wrote the Bailey report. I think we talked a little bit about the Bailey report that she wrote, which is basically a insight into DPS that could be used everywhere, someone said, but it was actually at DPS the last time I actually saw her alive. And I had walked, everybody's in masks and everything for this. This is in the swearing in of the new elected officials. And I walked past her and I didn't recognize her. I never do it maliciously, but then I went to the restroom and came back, sat down, looked around. I'm like, oh, that's Dr. Bailey, right? And I had to make sure somebody was talking, giving a speech. I didn't care. But I got up, walked over to her to let her know, hey, I was not deliberately ignoring you. One, I'm not raised like that. And two, that was not our relationship. And when Stefania, when you said like you never have the opportunity, that made me think about time, right? Like always take advantage of time. It's our most precious resource. In a twinkling of an eye, the person can be gone. And so I was just so glad that I went back and took that time out just to speak, because I never would have had, if I didn't do it then, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to recover from that. So yeah, so it's those little things, but she's definitely a figure in the community that will be missed. She still wrote that standard, the Bailey report, that DPS still is not living up to. So that I feel that speaks to how great of the report and of the person was, basically like iconic, for that work that she did.
Wow. Look, that's a great story. It's very, you hit it right on the head. Time is something that you never get back. I'm so glad that you went back and said something to her, though. How long ago was that?
Sheesh. That was over a month ago. Like it was the Thursday before her passing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice that you got to see her. Wow.
And I would encourage, if you're an educated, I didn't mean to cut you off, Stefan, if you're an educator that's either new to the field or you are an administrator, I would say take time to read her report. It's posted all over the place. If we can find it, maybe we could post it in the chat. And especially read the recommendations portion of the report. If you don't read nothing else, read the recommendations, because that report, once again, can be implemented in just about every single school district across the country.
We can post the link in the chat.
Okay.
Nice. Well, like I said, she's going to be sorely missed. That's a hole in our community. Big shoes to fill. We have a lot of other people out there, but Dr. Bailey is going to be sorely missed. And to her family and all her loved ones, our condolences and best wishes for them.
What was it?
Moving on, we have we lost another pillar of our community. We lost the mayor of Northglenn. The Northglenn City, mayor of Northglenn, Odell Berry, who also was the a punt returner for the Broncos in the 70s.
Well, Odell Berry, I got stories. Odell Berry was a mentor. It wasn't like we talked every day, but when we connect, he'll drop pearls of wisdom. And I remember we were at the Adams County Democratic meeting that they were having, and I was walking past him. I just said hi. He said, "Come here, son, have a seat." And he just started, I had some other endeavors I was doing at the time, running for office, and he just gave me a bunch of wisdom, and he'll always say, here's a contribution. So he's another person definitely going to be missed. Some of the work he did with the Colorado Black Chamber.
The Black Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, Black Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of work with them and opened up the doors for a lot of elected officials. Remember, he's the first African-American to be elected as mayor to a major city in the state of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about where he was elected and during that time,
right? Yeah,
I mean, he was truly a trailblazer.
Yes,
he truly was, and his resume is so long. I mean, city councilman man in Northland. He was a realtor. He played for the Broncos. He's done so much and left a huge footprint in Colorado. Who's that? You mean it? I think. Oh, here's the thing. I never met him. So, Omar, you're the only one that actually probably met him and can talk about, the type of person he was. But when I look at his resume and all the things that he's done, like you said, the first Black mayor of Northwood, that's a huge feat in itself.
I mean, when you begin to think about all of the Black elected officials in the state of Colorado today, when you begin to think about Mayor Wellington Webb, remember, he was elected before Mayor Wellington Webb. You have to begin to think anybody, in my opinion, when you begin to think about Webbs, when you begin to think about the Honorable Wilma Webb, these are people who were trailblazers that laid the path.
Yeah.
So that when you run for office, to me, and you're Black in the state of Colorado, you need to begin to research the work that these individuals have done to get the MLK celebration, one of the largest in the country, at least in the top 4 largest MLK celebration. Number 2, celebrations in the country. That pathway set the city of Aurora to have almost week-long celebrations for MLK. So, I was honored to be in his presence. I was honored for him to give me pearls of wisdom, especially when I was running for office. And anytime I was in his presence, he was the most kind individual. Because, sometimes you could be around some folks that got them accolades.
Right.
And, they snort their nose up at you. He really didn't know me, and he accepted me with open arms. And I send my condolences to his family if they're listening, and to let you know that, he had a true impact on my life.
Nice. It's always nice to hear when we have another brother or sister that has done so well and done so much for the state of Colorado itself, for us to live here and to see the things that we do. He was mayor in 80 through 82, I believe.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, I was a baby back then, but the things that he's done, he taught Little League. He had an impact on children back then. He's done so much. That's another, trailblazer who's really, really going to be missed. And I don't know what he did later, once he left the political arena, but everybody remembers him.
He was an entrepreneur. He was a businessman.
What I would say is, go ahead, Omar.
No, go ahead, Mr. Carter.
What I was going to say is, I didn't see that. I saw that second generation, that Wellington Webb generation, because that's when I came back to Colorado. When I was originally here back in the early 90s, I remember leaving from Colorado Springs and then coming back, and I had friends. This is like 2003. Denver having a Black mayor. And so that was me coming in that second generation, being like, Denver has a Black, Denver had a Black mayor. And no, that's exactly, huh? And because I came through that Colorado Springs lens, that Fort Carson lens, and not seeing that, and seeing that second generation, those seeds that he laid coming up through Mayor Webb and then coming up through Mayor Hancock, and just getting to Denver in 2003 and just being impressed with that part of it, just being impressed that, oh, okay, this is not the Denver I thought it was. This is different. So
yeah, it's changing little by little. I know that we've gotten quite a few in the political arena now. We've got congressmen and senators and House representatives all over. We almost had a Black mayor in Aurora. Almost. Maybe one day again, right? We always want to see people making sure that they take advantage of the chances to put our point of view and have our voices heard in big places where they need to be heard.
Yeah. And I think, I know we've said it a few times, about how he was the mayor of a major city in Colorado, the first Black mayor of a major city in Colorado. But we have to understand that they were still burning crosses on Black people's yards in the 80s.
Yeah.
And to understand what North Glen is, to understand that climate, like I think we can't talk about it enough. And Omar, you definitely said it. Like when you're Black running for office, you should know about it. But white folks need to know about it too. Non-white, non-Black folks need to know about it as well too, because we know as we lift and rise, so does community, right? So does society lift and rise. And he was also responsible for part of his legacy was in the 80s, he instituted an $80 million water project in the city of North Glen, right? And now when I drive through North Glen in my political work, and I see all them other people's, and I'm like, y'all just don't know who actually tilled this ground, planted this seed, and created this for it to be supposedly your escape. I hope you would just burst out in the flames if I told you the truth about what happened, but you probably would call me all types of liars and wouldn't believe me if I showed it to you in writing. But yeah, so it's no small feat to say that, that he was the first Black elected mayor of a major city. So.
Good point. Yep.
And a devoted member to Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and I believe there's another member of the Divine Nine on this in this conversation right now. But I say that to say that imagine being in a Kappa League, which is their mentoring program, and you have Odell Berry, you have the Honorable Mayor Wellington Webb. You have these people that can mentor you, that you have access to. And from what I was told through the Brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, he not only mentored the kids, but he mentored the adults in the organization as well. Okay. So I also send my condolences to the Brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated as well.
Yes. And he happened to pass 3 days before their Founders Day. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
that is that is a tough. I know that the memorial service is tomorrow. I plan on attending the memorial service. The funeral is Saturday, but we have our youth MLK event in Aurora that day. Although it's virtual, I still got to be there. But definitely going to be sending the family prayers. But I do plan on attending the memorial service tomorrow.
Nice.
It's really hard losing someone this time of the year anyway. Like it's
so sudden and so early in the year. You're like, ooh, we made it across the threshold of the new year. And then you get these hits to the gut of people that you really looked up to and mentor, considered a mentor, and have, watched their careers most of your life. And then you find out that they've left you.
Yeah. I lost my grandfather on Christmas Eve. And so whenever I hear people getting like, oh, the holiday season, I'm like, bah humbug, right? Like it's hard. And, my condolences and love and light to the families of the people that have lost loved ones. That first year is always the hardest year. I feel, and if there's any bit of advice I can give, like, don't waste time trying to get over grief. Because I went to a therapist. Yes, Black people do seek mental health therapists. And a lesson I learned from my therapist is you never get over grief, right? You learn different ways on how to cope with it, how to deal with it, but you don't get over it. And so sometimes it's damaging to yourself to try to get over it. That's just not how it happens. If there's a smell that comes that reminds you of that loved one, a song, a TV program, your favorite food, you take it in, you have your moment, and you appreciate the time that you had with the person, and you move forward. I mean, and the best thing that we can, that works for me is knowing that my grandfather did not die violently or tragically, and that he's no longer suffering, so if that's of any comfort to family watching, of the ones that we've talked about that we'll discuss, or the people that have just suffered loss in their life, period, may that help you in this journey. So
Yeah, good point, Hashim. I mean, bringing up mental health, that's very important for the family members to consider that. I lost, and see, you talk about December, I lost three family members in 1 year in December. And so, yeah, it was tough to see one of them being my father. But you're right. And like you said, you don't get over grief. You really do have to go through all those stages, and everybody goes through them differently at different times, and you deal with them differently. But allow yourself to go through them and realize what you're going through, and don't blame yourself. Don't try and keep it in yourself. Talk to somebody. Yeah.
Agree, and I think maybe one day we should have a future show on how we deal with grief.
Yeah.
When you think about the trauma in our community, on top of all the things we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then you add grief to it. I think we may have to do a show on how we handle grief.
Oh yeah.
Handling it appropriately, how it impacts your physical and mental health. I think maybe we should think about that in the future.
I agree. Yeah, but I have someone I can bring on for the show. Let's talk about one more person that we've lost. And this is more national than it is local, but we lost Sidney Poitier very early on in this new year. A legacy in just the name.
Yeah, and with each passing, I'm like, the wrong people are dying. I mean, that's me. Y'all know me. Y'all know how I feel about that. There, but Sidney Poitier, a key contributor to the Black struggle, Black history. As everyone that we've spoken about tonight. I guess a blessing or something that's fortunate is that he lived a very long time.
94.
Yes, that is a very long time. I still think that some other people should have taken their place, but
we're not going to ask any names.
Nope. I ain't wishing ill on nobody. Sorry.
Nobody gets
that karma to yourself.
Nobody gets out of here alive. Everybody you love is gonna die.
I agree.
Period. Now, if I could move some pieces around, I'd have moved some pieces around. Period.
I'm keeping that karma to myself. I'll keep that karma to myself.
Yourself.
That being said,
ain't no karma.
When I sent you guys
karma on here, man. No, listen. If there was karma in this world, I don't care. What the devastation that happened to the native people, the indigenous people of this land, if there was karma, what happened to our ancestors on them plantations, if there was karma. So let's step out this foolishness for me. And I tend to live in this thing of reality of, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I'm not going out to commit ill harm to people. I just wish it had been somebody else.
You live wherever you want to live.
Voting rights from passing. Clear that out the way.
You live wherever you want to live.
And I'm trying
to. Ill or death.
Isaac hears you. Isaac trying to. I just ain't trying to shuck and jive around the issues.
You do whatever you need to do.
Isaac trying,
I am not playing that game.
So
Isaac
back
trying,
to
boss.
Poirier. Let's talk about him and his life and his legacy.
No. But what was the first thing I did when I sent you guys that picture of? They call me Mr. Tibbs. That was huge to me. That if you watch the movie, you've watched the story, you've seen it, that line right there where, and I actually tried to sit down and watch it with my kids, and they couldn't understand how Sidney Poitier slapping a white man in the middle of a movie was huge, and how that put on screen, somebody put that on screen, and that was that went out over the nation, over the world, and that was huge, period. And so that's why I sent you that. They call me Mr. Tibbs. That meant something. It meant
those people that had an issue with it,
to me.
And if they're still alive, I wish they'd have traded places if they had an issue with seeing that.
When you begin to think about theaters back during that time, there really wasn't like you have digital technology today to rewind that scene. People would pay to go see that movie multiple times just for that one scene. Because it was one of the first movies where you actually saw a Black man retaliate against racism. And it was done with a slap. He said, basically, if you slap me, I'm gonna slap you back. Them
Right.
days are over with. And Black people erupted when you read the history books and you read people who were in the theaters, similar to Melvin Van Peebles when he started the Black what is that era of Black films, because his was the first.
I can't think of it either, man.
My brain, Black exploitation films.
Yeah.
He actually made the first, and his first was about retaliating against the police and police brutality. They tried to give it an X rating. So when you begin to think about those filmmakers, they actually changed the culture of Black America. When you talk about the Black Power movement, when you begin to think about different things.
Go ahead.
There was a lag. I'm sorry, Omar.
There is a delay.
I'm done. Go ahead. I think I'm seeing the lag too.
There was a lag. I'm sorry, Omar.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm going to ask you this, Carter. Was They Call Me Mr. Tibbs? Is that your favorite piece of work that Sidney Poitier did? He's done so much. It's hard to say that there's a favorite in there. I mean, okay, go ahead. What's the second one?
Well, there's the Defiant Ones, and I think I remember watching that in black and white with my grandparents. But my undercover favorite was Let's Do It Again.
Yeah. Uptown Saturday Night. Let's Do It Again.
Because that was
there was one more.
I was old enough to watch him and know I wasn't supposed to be watching him, but I've been like, this is good. This is good. So those are my two, the back-to-back, Uptown Saturday Night and Let's Do It Again.
What's the other one that he did that was of that same genre? But James Earl Jones was in this one.
Was James Earl Jones a boxer? Was that? Hold on, let me think.
It was because it was three of them, kind of that same type of thing.
Uptown Saturday Night. Let's Do It Again. Those are the two that I remember. Right?
that I got that.
I mean, I could go back and watch that today. He's done so many prolific ones. I mean, he did Stir Crazy. He wrote Stir Crazy for.
He directed Stir Crazy.
Yeah, that was that was hilarious. Rich Pryor.
That was what he did in the 70s. He moved out of acting and became this director and opened it up for so many black actors to be in these great movies.
Right.
I want to say, and I'm trying to think of the one you're talking about, Hashim.
I'm looking it up.
Thank God for Google.
And
Piece of the Action.
J.J. Walker was in that too.
Piece of the Action.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Piece
What
of the
was
Action.
it?
Piece of the Action.
Okay. Yeah.
J.J. Walker was the boxer.
Now you can't talk about Sidney Poitier without talking about Raising in the Sun, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a good one, and it has been recreated several times on Broadway and in film, or at least rearranged and taken and redone. But his version to me is still my favorite.
Yeah, that was my first experience or introduction to him that I knew who it was. Yeah.
My first one was Look Who's Coming.
Look Who's Coming to Dinner.
Because that was redone as Look Who's Coming, but Look Who's Coming to Dinner. I like that one. It was a little hard to watch in the as you're watching and going through everything, that roller coaster, but it was I liked it. I mean, he brought what he needed to bring to the table to bring that one forward.
Yeah.
I can see that. I just never got into that one. It was definitely the Heat of the Night, the Defiant Ones, and I believe they redid the Defiant Ones in the 70s again with I want to say Lando Calrissian. Oh my God, Lando.
I know you're talking about. Okay, see, my mind is going, but I know you're talking about. You're talking. Yeah.
And so I think they redid it, and I kind of went back and saw that and was, okay, this is the original, and it's better. But I kind of, I wouldn't say lost track of him in the 80s. I just don't remember him being around. I could be wrong.
That was probably the time that he was, the 80s, he was doing, no, that wasn't Courtier Invest and all that. You know, he like you said, he's probably behind the scenes.
Okay.
Behind the scenes, so it's hard to keep him behind the scenes, though.
Was he at the Oscars? Okay.
Yes, he was. He won the first award. It was the black man to win the first Academy Award.
And was that for?
Oh.
Okay. I'm fine. It's not a quiz. I'm sorry.
Right? We would have.
I always, these are the people that wore their glasses on test day.
Or wore them tonight so that they could read the fine print while they're trying to, look at the camera.
Yep, that's me.
Sorry, y'all. I had to switch technology.
That's better. Yes.
Yeah, I had to switch technology. It was getting a little shaky with the computer. I think I had too many things open or something.
No worries. No worries. Did you say what your favorite was?
With Sidney Poitier, out of his movies, the three you mentioned, Uptown Saturday Night, A Piece of the Action. He also did one during that time where he was an educator with some kids. And I forget the name of it. It was with some inner city kids. And he was teaching them about jobs. He was teaching them about life. And he was taking them out on these experiential learning sessions. And I got to tell you, that movie inspired me because he was showing them that no matter what space you step into, you can shine. So he was teaching them how to do job interviews, all that great stuff. And the man was teaching while he was acting. That's all I got to say.
Okay. And is that To Serve with Love, or is that somebody just put it at To Serve with Love, or is that the Blackboard Jungle? Again, I'm
trying to remember which one it was, because it was two. Because it was one where he was a teacher in the inner city, and then there was one, I think he was like a teacher in England or something like that. Yeah. It was a couple. I mean, he played in a few action films. I mean, he did it all. He did it all. When you think about the doors that he opened for Black actors and actresses, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. He definitely left a legacy.
There we go. Thank you.
Let me ask this question. How would you compare his legacy to some of the icons today? When you begin to think about your Spike Lee's, your Tyler Perry's, your Denzel Washington's, how do you compare his legacy to their legacy? Two different time periods, but just how do you compare the legacies?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever even tried to. I think that a lot of actors, they bring what they bring to the table. I know that Sidney Poitier, he trudged the way for a lot of the actors and directors to be in that arena, including Spike Lee and Denzel Washington's. But he was like, I mean, they're all great in their own right. They're so different.
But what I'd ask, and I honestly don't know the age disparity between all of us, but I would say, for me, it's that 80s when I don't want to say coming of age, but that 80s where I saw Denzel in A Soldier Story and Glory, and I saw Spike Lee, and if Spike Lee, there was that time if Spike Lee put a movie out, I went and saw it, and so I have a connection to Spike Lee and his movies at that time, and a connection to Denzel from, A Soldier Story, or even I think Carbon Copy, all the way up to when he's doing, and then when they come together, they do Malcolm X. You thought, okay, this is I got my favorite actor and my favorite director, and you're 18, 19 years old, and like, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. And so you kind of stop because it can't be that high. It can't be that height forever. And it just didn't. It doesn't. And you just have this kind of, you romanticize, you have this love affair with those two at that time in that era. So I can't compare that to Sidney Poitier because he was never that for me.
Even though you saw the Uptown Saturday Night and the
I saw those as a child, but as I grew into an adult, Spike Lee and Denzel kind of came with me, and so I had a different connection to them. Whereas I saw Sidney Poitier, I was a child watching his movies, so there wasn't that connection. But I still understood I'm not supposed to be watching Uptown Saturday Night, but there just wasn't that same connection that you have with Denzel and Spike. I don't know.
When I look at it in the comparison to those who you have mentioned, I'm just thinking of a line from Mary J. Blige's song, "There Is No Competition." But the range that Sidney Poitier had, I'm trying to be in my mind, is if this is 94 years versus maybe top 70, 60, 50, breaking it down like that. But the range of the work that he did, I think maybe Denzel comes the closest to that you've mentioned, from an acting standpoint, and with dabbling in directing as well. I would think that they would be the most comparable in that. Spike, while he's acted in some stuff, I don't really consider him an actor. This is my own thing. But if it had not been for, right, I don't think that the others would have existed. And if they would have existed, it would not have been in the same way. And I also look at his work that slap was definitely power to the people type of thing back then. The work in The Raisin in the Sun was definitely one of those pro-Black type of things in the climate. But I think his work was more, I'm going to give you excellence as my way of combating white supremacy. And bam, how you like me now? So his work ethic, his excellence set himself above a reproach. And that is my answer to your question. And I probably did not answer the question. But yeah, that's my answer.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's just, and it may be like Michael said, that it depends on the era you grew up in, because I grew up looking at Sidney Poitier movies, and my family, we would gather around the TV before we had cable, and you only had about 4 or 5 stations, and his movies would come on like on a Saturday night. And, we couldn't wait to see Uptown Saturday Night. We couldn't wait to see A Piece of the Action. We couldn't wait to see those films, because those were the only images of people authentically being Black.
Yes.
Everything else was, you had that one Black person, and they sort of had to be subservient to the white people that were in the other roles, although they may have been better actors and actresses. And so they either had to be a maid, they had to be a servant, they had to be talked down to, they had to play dumb, they had to play stupid. But in those movies, Sidney Poitier, like you, and I think you said it best, Hashim, he showed you excellence. And so we couldn't wait to watch a Sidney Poitier movie. And I really hope that they end up doing the marathon of his movies, do children books about him, so that people know the contributions that he left behind, and that he set for us.
Yep.
Real quick, just to kind of solidify that, and when you kind of brought that up, sitting around, and me kind of saying I grew up with Denzel, I was thinking about the movie Fences.
Oh yeah.
And Fences hits me because now it's Denzel, this dude, this character, this man that I have grown up with, being a father. And so when I say it's different for me and Sidney Poitier, because I had grown up and I've grown up with Denzel. And so I can watch Fences now, which he directed probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and still be emotional because I've grown up with Denzel, because I've followed Denzel. I could not watch even when I was watching In Heat of the Night again when he passed. I did not have that emotional connection. I still understood what was going on. I still felt it, but not the way I feel when I'm watching Denzel, especially, like I said, when I'm watching Fences and Denzel's performance hits me different. And that's because I've been watching Denzel for 40 years.
Is that because when you were growing up, you tried to be Denzel?
No. As a matter of fact, I was Spike.
Okay. All right. I'm just asking.
You know, I want to ask Stefania a question. You know, we're hearing this from a male perspective right now. From a Black woman perspective, what did Sidney Poitier mean to you, and the image that he left in his representation of Black America?
Well, you know, I can't speak for Black women. I can speak for this Black woman right here. So I don't want to try and act like I have every opinion a Black woman would ever have. But, you know, I grew up with Sidney Poitier. Not grew up with him, but I grew up watching him. I'm a little older than all y'all, I think. But I appreciated everything that he brought. The one thing that he brought for me was 100% professionalism and excellence. And I say that because the first thing that struck me when I saw Sidney Poitier in film was his accent and how he spoke, which then gave rise to, wow, he's not playing a servant. He's not playing a drug dealer. He's not in jail. And, you know, he's done all these other shows that when he was cast, he was not cast as the typical Black person. It surprised me to see his name as a cast member in The Greatest Story Ever Told, which is a story that I watch once a year, every year. My husband really likes that movie. And so I go back and I always try and see where he is in that film, because I want to make sure that I catch him in it, because notoriously back then they make films that were set in Africa and there are no Black people. And so The Greatest Story Ever Told was one of those movies that, you know, no Black people, but Sidney Poitier was in it. And it's in a time and an era where it should have been an all Black cast almost. But he brought a lot as a woman. I can't say he was like, it wasn't like Billy D. Williams, which is who you were trying to think of earlier, Carter.
Yes.
Lando Calrissian. It wasn't like you were watching Billy D. Williams on the screen. Billy D. Williams would make you swoon, but Sidney Poitier, he was extremely good-looking man. He just brought a special type of excellence to the screen and professionalism, and you know, you just knew that you were getting the top echelon of acting when you saw him. That's just my opinion, though. But I put him and see, my mind is not working with me. Darth Vader.
Just want to step
James
in.
Earl Jones. I put him and James Earl Jones.
I just want to step in, and maybe other people need to use their glasses and look up stuff online while we're on the show. But it wasn't Billy D. Williams. It was Carl Weathers.
In what?
Who played Lando Calrissian?
Lando Calrissian. Don't question.
Lando Calrissian was Billy D. Williams.
So let me know when you get all this out.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm going to take it back. I'm going to go back to the movie that you were talking about that was copied off of Sidney Poitier's movie. That was not Billy D. Williams.
Okay.
It was Carl Weathers.
Yes.
Lando was Billy D.
So you done mixed and convoluted this.
Lando
I'm just trying to get us straight.
Lando Billy D.
Thank you for getting us straight.
Yes, but that was not the Black man that played in the Defiled Ones that you tried to tie the line into. Now, this might come back to the whole thing of you not spending enough time around enough Black people to see the difference.
I'm going back to that from last week.
To recognize that Black excellence is spread amongst Black folks and is not held by just one, the Billy D. Williams.
All right, Nugget. Where it is. Now I got to look this up because you didn't agitate me. Carl Weathers has been in like one movie other than Rockies, and it was Action Jackson.
He wasn't in Predator.
Oh,
Carl Weathers has a. Wait a
and,
minute. Don't diminish his legacy like that.
Right.
Thank you, Omar.
Yeah, he's been in a lot.
Okay, time out. We have a fight about Carl Weathers' legacy.
Oh man.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, we
have a fight about Carl Weathers' legacy.
I just appreciate how black folks
We have a fight about Carl Weathers' legacy. Predator, Action Jackson, and
the Defiant Ones.
No. Predator, Action Jackson, and the one where he lost, where he played Chubbs McGee. We gonna have a fight about Carl Weathers' legacy.
He's been in a lot. I mean, he was in Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore is the one I couldn't remember.
Okay.
Hey, he was also
Chubbs
in The
McGee,
Mandalorian, for the record, too. By the way.
What?
He was in The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. I don't watch.
He was on Magnum PI.
Happy Gilmore.
We already said Happy Gilmore.
No. Let me do you a favor. I'm just gonna
No, don't do me a favor. Don't go look up it. Tell me what you remember about his career.
I know he wasn't in the Defiant Ones. I know that Carl Weathers was in the
Defiant Ones. He was in the Defiant Ones.
He played football too. So there you go.
Okay, that's not the question, but thank you. He was.
What was he in? He was in a football team.
That's not the question.
Michael. We're about to close this down. We are not going to debate Carl Weathers.
I agree with that.
But wait a minute. Before we shut it down, I just hope everyone tune in next week when we begin to talk about MLK, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Many of us will be going to the festivities. Some of us have already been to the festivities. I want to give a shout out to the NAACP Secretary, Shartasia Miller, who won the humanitarian award. I was able to go to the Colorado Symphony, and I got to say, it was a great event. So just in general, I look forward to talking about the impact of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King has had on us and how his legacy impacts society today. I look forward to that conversation next week.
No doubt about it. And we'll be getting some content to show the various events that we can share at our meeting or at our next show as well. But it's we got about 3 minutes left. So my hope is that we deliver some dope black thoughts.
We got about 3.
It's a terrible lag there. But anyway, who's up? Who's up? Dope black thought for the day. We didn't talk about Michael K. Williams, but nonetheless, still. Anyway.
I think we should go back to what Hashim said. Time. No, not dope and not black enough.
Oh no, I don't listen. I gotta say it. Like, provide just direction for me, or like this. That's not mine. I don't own it. I don't own what CPT time was. With the fact that it actually meant for us showing up on time, us showing up ahead of time, us being responsible. I mean, like, because we couldn't be late when it came to nurse them white babies from black breasts. We couldn't be late when it came for all that free black labor that was demanded from us. So CP time, in my opinion, is a flattering type of thing that has been demonized by white supremacy to look bad upon us. Kind of also like them saying that slaves were lazy and shiftless and all this type of stuff. But I don't know who the group was that went to a whole nother continent to snatch people up to bring them over here to do their labor.
I'm sorry I sent you. I did not give you direction. I meant talking about.
It's all right. I ain't living in the past, my sister.
I'm talking about time. Not taking advantage of the time that we have left.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I didn't know. You got to be clear. You've been hanging around Michael Carter too much. Y'all about clear as mud.
His IMDb. For those who are confused, it's in the comments.
Yes.
So, and you can name any of the 5 movies other than Rocky.
Boy, he's so bitter.
I can't. Black excellence is the norm, not the exception.
Thank you. And black excellence also, maybe next time Michael will wipe that lens off so it's not so shea
I
butter.
Wish.
That shea butter filter off.
Read between the lines, Theo.
Anyway, all right.
Let me show you how I feel. Read between the lines, Hashim. Read between the lines.
All right. So anyway, call out to folks. Listen, DBT is expanding. We are interested in those who are interested in writing, helping us out, putting together newsletter, things of that nature. We are looking for new talent. Those who are interested in producing and being a part of a family in that aspect, social media experts, sponsors. That's what we're looking for. We're trying to take DBT to that level for an authentic Black voice, authentic Black experiences. That's what we're about. So nonetheless, I'm gonna just throw that out. Anyone else got anything else before we close this out?
No, I want to apologize to Michael for talking about his shea butter filter. That is his contribution to Black excellence, that shea butter filter.
And we are out. Peace, everyone.